to another episode of More Content Talk. That's the only show to cut through the glam, the glitz, and all the bullshit and bring you the absolute truthiest news we can find. My prediction did come true. McConnell opted to... He didn't completely kill the $2,000 check, but what he did was kind of put a delay on it until after the election. So this is a typical move of someone who's not going to pass a bill. Oh, I'll wait till after the election to see, and then, regardless if he wins or loses, he'll kill it. I guarantee you. That's part 2 of my prediction right there. And that's to be expected. It's not surprising. Yeah, those senators, they really don't care, and you shouldn't really be too shocked by that. I mean, I understand, it's very hurtful, and these people are ridiculous. They're still playing around in the Congress, deciding on whether or not people should live, basically, because this nonsense that McConnell is saying about, it's going to wealthy people, $2,000, that's ridiculous. And even if it did, it's a pandemic. You cannot make the argument to me, because people are assuming that this is going to be over, in like a few months or something, and that's preposterous, okay? All of the estimates that the conservatives are making, the economic estimates that the conservatives are making, are based on the idea that this will last, the repercussions of this will only last maybe like 2 years maximum, but really only their calculations are like a few months. The more liberal calculations are 2-3 years. But the reality is that it's going to last, the ramifications of this are going to last decades, at least 2. And the reason for that is simple. You have already in the United States a very poor healthcare system that is very limited, very strained, very underfunded in terms of research. There's a lot of innovation, mostly because you can sell stuff that way. But in terms of, say, healing disease, in case you haven't noticed, there haven't been a lot of breakthroughs, and it's not because we don't have the talent, it's because they're not given the funds. And I know, you roll your eyes and you say, well, you get all this money. Yeah, but where is the money going? And, as usual, it doesn't go to the right places for whatever reason. I don't know the exact reasoning behind that. I can research it later. But one thing I was able to look into was this very intelligent person who was talking about, and I don't know their name, but they were in the medical field, and they were talking about how already you have a very strained medical system that is not developing expertise fast enough. Like, for example, it's taking 7 to 10 years to develop expertise in fields, and that's, in the meantime, what you're having is an increase in, especially things like asthma and other respiratory illness. And, think about COVID, folks. Think about what that's going to do. Because I'll tell you what it's going to do. It's going to make it so that it's going to take even longer for those doctors to become specialists, because now they're going to have all kinds of new, interesting, fun things to learn about your asthma and your respiratory illness. Because now it's going to have all these variances with these different COVID mutations, and who knows what else is coming down the pipeline. There's talk of other viruses too, so you never know. And I think I saw super gonorrhea had come out recently. So you see that they're kind of popping up, and what you're seeing in the process of happening right now is a complete and utter shit show, because they are not prepared. The medical system in this country is not prepared to deal with all of you sick people. They do not have the resources. Of course, they're not going to tell you that. Of course, they're going to smile at you, and they're going to show you pictures of smiling doctors or whatever. But if you look on Twitter and you look at these doctors' Twitter accounts, they are freaking the fuck out. And the reason they're freaking out is because the after effects, you're not It's not just people who die. There's going to be a lot of people who are disabled, and these doctors do not have the technology. They do not, well, yes, they have the technology, but they don't have the manpower. I saw this person say that it's going to go from taking 7 to 10 years to about, like, you know, maybe 15 to 20 years to become an expert. And so basically what you're going to see is a lot of people just aren't going to be able to see specialists, folks. You're not going to be able, and I'm just talking about the respiratory illness. Who knows what else it's going to affect? Maybe it's going to affect, I've heard about things like brain fog, neuropathy. Are these people going to be able to see neurologists? Most likely not, because the stock of neurologists is very low already. They're already strained. I was barely able to get a neurologist. I have epilepsy, and I barely got one. If you what's going to happen to you, and you have no history of medical need for a neurologist? I'll tell you what's going to happen. They're going to prioritize people who are already being treated and who are doing well on treatment. They're going to prioritize those people, and they're going to start denying people, especially newer patients who are older. And yeah, that's how it goes down. I don't have to make that up. That's just what's going to happen. And doctors are already saying this is going to be a complete shit show. So the people who are saying that this is going to be over soon are complete liars. They've completely deluded themselves. And delusion is a scary thing. Earlier this morning I talked to my spouse about when I see some movies that I thought, when I was before I gotten well, because I was having seizures all the time and stuff like that. I was very sick all the time, very anxious when you have seizures, very nervous constantly, depressed. It's a roller coaster ride. I probably have bipolar disorder. I've never been diagnosed with it, but I have all the symptoms. So and then also, like, the seizure medicine I'm on treats bipolar disorder as well, and I feel better when I'm on it. So there's a lot of reasons that I think that, and it's very difficult for a black man, especially a black boy, to be diagnosed with any mental disorders because doctors are prejudiced. But that's a whole other thing. But I think back on the things that I used to like, movies, whatever it was. I'm a completely different person now. I don't have those same opinions anymore. And they used to be very mean, kind of nasty, opinions that I really had adopted to fit in with the far right. They were not my opinions when I started out at all. I grew up in a secular household. We didn't have religion when I grew up. It was always just be nice to people, be kind, be nice, like a lot like what you hear now in the media all the time. Just be kind, be nice, be positive, be happy, Well, let me tell you something. That's not a fail-safe program either. Because I grew up with that, and it failed miserably. And I'll tell you the reason. It's a fantasy. And it's not real. And not everyone in the world is like that. Not everyone in the world is ever going to be like that. Not everyone in the world is interested in that life. And one of the reasons they're not interested is because they're not interested in being taken advantage of. People want to stand up for themselves. They're going to go out. They want to go out with a bang. A lot of people think that religion and faith and things like that is about bringing comfort, and it does bring comfort, but it brings comfort in a very odd way, because and this spreads to conspiracy theories too. What what it really does? It gives you this sense that even if you're suffering and all this stuff, you're going through all this hell, and hey, God's doing it, you know. It's God's plan. And so really, it's right. Now, that may sound fine, but think about that for a second. If you're suffering, if you're going through pain, it's right. It's just automatically right. There's no questioning it, because you know what? It's from God. And God, he puts you through things sometimes, you know. And when God does that, you can't question him, can you? Not if you read the Bible. Not if you really read the Bible. I'm not talking about quoting scriptures and, you know, you heard your dad told you a story about God one time. No. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about reading the Bible and realizing that this is a God that wants obedience from you. And human beings leverage that. They use it to beat women. They use it to murder people. They use it to torture people. They use it to deny people medical service. Because you know what? They look at you and they say, hey, buddy, guess what? That's life. It's in the book. It's the Bible. It's Christianity. This is a Christian nation. Yeah, you're getting $600 because that's all you're worth. And that's exactly what they're telling you. You're worth $600. You're worth nothing to them. Nothing. They know what rent costs. Don't let these idiots on the media tell you, well, they just don't understand how the cost of rent goes up. They know what. They know. They don't care. They don't care how many times you quote statistics. You could get up there and read from whatever journal of sociology you like. You think these people care about you? You're the one with the problem. You're the conspiracy theorist, because you have a conspiracy theory that these people give a fuck about math. They know that most people want Medicare for all, and most people want the money, and most people want to do that. They don't care what most people want. They care what their voting base wants. And their voting base wants people to suffer, because you know what? It says in the Bible that suffering is good. You can't get around it. You can't get around that. That's your fault for all these years telling people work hard, you know, so you can succeed. Work hard, work hard. If you're one of those people, you know, stay positive, ignore it. Don't worry about it. Everything will be fine. If you're one of those people with your head in the clouds, just like Dr. Drew Pinsky, right? He came out this morning. He said he had COVID after he was talking all that shit. You're one of those people with your head in the clouds. Get your head out of the fucking clouds. Stop acting like everything's okay all the time. It's not. It's not okay all the time. And people in this country have gotten away for years with just pretending that things were fine. Well, guess what? The virus is here, and it doesn't give a fuck about your little pretense anymore. Because you can walk around saying, oh, everything's going to be fine. Yeah, okay, motherfucker. Whatever. You keep that attitude. Walk around with a happy face. Whatever you want. You're in a crisis and the system is collapsing and you don't care? Your response is, well, oh well. Let's go to Arby's. Jeez. And yeah, that is some people's response, and I'll tell you why. It's because they're convinced, they're deluded. No one has brainwashed these people. Stop saying that. It is not the media's fault that these people behave in this manner. The media tells people what they want to hear. Do you know that man who, and I believe it was a man, pardon me if I'm wrong, but I believe it was, who bombed, I believe it was Nashville. He blew up that whole block. Do you know that he was a conspiracy theorist? Do you know that he was apolitical? He didn't talk about politics. Listen to this for a second, okay? Don't come in here with your little nonsense of, well, it's the far right. Oh, no, it's the far left. Ooh, it's the moderate. It's the socialists. It's the communists. It's the... Shut up. No, none. Apolitical. Didn't give a shit about your political opinion. That's how I used to be. That is an important group of conspiracy theorists and political actors, people who are out talking in the political spectrum who no one pays attention to. I'll never understand it. People who they don't care. They don't care what you have to say. They have their own motives for the way that they behave. And so this person was a conspiracy theorist who blew up this block in Nashville, this car bomb in his RV. You know what he used to do? He used to go hunting for aliens. He thought aliens were real, folks. He thought they were real. He would go in his RV and he would sit there and go on hunting trips. This is what his friend told the FBI. I'm not making this up. You could look it up. It was on ABC News, I believe. If you want me to cite it, because people, you get a little snide. You cite your sources. So you say you've never cited a source in your life, because only people who have never cited sources demand sources. All right. In that snide manner. I understand, like I make an outrageous claim, like I come to you and I say, water is black. Yeah, okay, obviously, like you demand evidence. But if I say something very basic, I expect you to understand. And I've been shouting this at the top of my lungs all throughout this conspiracy ever since I came out of it. Because I was a conspiracy theorist, but people want to tell me, no, that's not what it is. I know, okay? That's what I was. I didn't care. I didn't care what anyone had to say. I was so gone, so far gone, so disgusted with the world, with humanity, the way they treated each other. They don't talk to each other. You come home, you got to pretend to like each other, and then if you don't pretend to like each other the right way, someone's going to nag at you. And then if you're not behaving another way, that someone else is nagging at you. It just goes on and on and on and on, and it gets to a point where you really start to question, is it worth it? Is this really what I work for? And so you start to hunt around for answers. And obviously you go to the normal places first. You go to the books, right? And there's a lot of answers in books. There's endless answers in books. You're absolutely right. And now I understand that. And I can find the beauty in things like science and stuff like that. But initially, it seemed very cold. It seemed heartless. It seemed like a lot of people being very pompous. Okay? And I'm not saying that that's true. I'm telling you what it seems like. It's a very different concept, the word seem as opposed to is. People are misled. Oftentimes through no fault of the other party. And that's what I'm saying to you, is that it's not science's fault that it comes off as pompous. I'm saying that there are times that it does, and it can. Just like anything can. Art can come off as pompous too. The thing about art, you know where it has the upper hand? Because I'll tell you, it's just as pompous as some scientists are. You compare Richard Dawkins and Bill Maher. It's the same thing. There's no difference. One is American. That's the only difference. Jewish, I guess, but that's really it. They're the same. They have this very snide kind of humor, like, oh, poor people, shut up and get out of the way. Let us do what we want to do, kind of nonsense. So that's what they do, and that's fine. I have no problem with it. I find it a bit humorous, to be honest. But my point is that people think certain things already, and then they go on this journey where they develop these philosophies. And these philosophies are a search for answers. And people change throughout their life. Some people will change on opinion so many times, and they're always searching. And so why am I bringing this up? Because the search can delude you. It can become so overwhelming that you want to escape into fantasy. And so this Nashville bomber thought that and I know it sounds crazy, he thought that people were lizards. He thought that they were alien people. He thought they were what are called lizard people. This is an old conspiracy that goes back to people like Kent Hovind, who has stated that there's a reptilian conspiracy, and David Icke. David Icke has done the same thing. Remember, David Icke claimed that he was Jesus Christ reincarnated. He did on national television. David Icke is not well. And I honestly, and let me tell you something, a lot of people say David Icke is a scam artist. I don't think he is. I think he's dead serious. I think he believes he's Jesus. Because how couldn't you? You get up on stage and you say outlandish things and people throw money at you. You would think you were Jesus too. Kayne West thinks he's Jesus. Everyone who's rich has this odd conception, unless they're atheists, then it's a little different. But they still can be pompous from time to time. It depends on the atheist. But especially if they're religious, they have this thing where it's like, oh my goodness, I've been chosen. It's manifest destiny, for crying out loud. You know, like Trump, that's his whole thing. He wanted to put his face on Mount Rushmore, for fuck's sake, even though we haven't put a president on Mount Rushmore since Mount Rushmore was built. Doesn't make any fucking sense. But it makes sense if you're thinking about it from the delusional mind. You remember a guy like Trump, he was in bankruptcy. You can go deluded with that. You can... This guy in Nashville, he was seemed very alone. He didn't talk to people very much. He's a loner. Again, when you're alone, you become desperate. You become afraid. You become anxious. Everyone becomes an enemy around you. You want to take things out on the world. You see what I'm talking about? So, where do these people come from? Well, I talked about Bill Cooper. I talked about David Icke. I've talked about Ben Shapiro. I've talked about a lot of these people. Now I want to take you on a journey into the bizarre. Because that's predictable. All that stuff you most likely you either knew about or you've heard about it from somewhere, and then you just said, well, look at this kook. Look at this kook. Why would anyone listen to Ben Shapiro? Why would anyone listen to David Icke? Really, who are these people? And you know what? To a certain degree, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. These are nobodies, or they were, not anymore. But at one point in the early 2000s, they were nobodies. No one knew who these people were, except for fringe idiots. You're absolutely right. So how did it become what it was? It's simple. What they did was they very much acted as a virus does in a computer. What happens when something goes viral? Does it go viral just because it's good? No. Something can be absolutely horrible and go viral. Right? So that's what they did. And still to this day, you'll find things like the Prophecy Club, Kent Hovind, all these things. You'll find them right at the top of search engines, and you're not even looking for them. So you can call them stupid all you want. They had a very organized plan to go viral on the internet so that their stuff got to as many paranoid, delusional people as possible. That was the plan from the beginning, and that's still the plan now, with all this election nonsense and all this hooting and hollering about, oh boy, howdy, we're going to secede from the Union. They're not going anywhere. That is a ruse, and they're not going to do anything. They're going to stay right here, and they're going to keep bitching about, fracking, and, you're going to take away our guns, and they're going to do that time memorial. You're going to be hearing it for years. They're never going to stop. So, how do we get these people? Where does Ben Shapiro come from? Why is Ben Shapiro representative of America? What started Alex Jones? What is the origin of Alan Watt? Where are these people coming from? I give you the story of Mr. Kellogg from Kellogg's Corn Flakes. It may seem like an odd member to bring up. And as I said, I'm thinking of turning this into a series because this subject spans so many people. Kellogg didn't just invent cornflakes. He was a doctor. And he was a very revered doctor of his time. And in fact, he had people like Amelia Earhart going to him. He had all kinds of very famous journalists and very famous people of the time that would come to his little getaway. It was this kind of health camp, which you still see today. And this is in the early 1900s, maybe in the 1800s, late 1800s. So what is he doing? Well, what he's doing in this little camp, this little health getaway, is he's experimenting. And he's using all kinds of, some of them helpful, like some things like, certain things he was doing with the skin and things like that helped in a very minimal way. It wasn't like anything groundbreaking. That's why he's not remembered as a doctor. He's mostly remembered as the guy who made cornflakes for that reason. But some of the things he was doing was completely insane. It made no sense, and it bordered on the line of torture. He would just spray people with water for hours, and called it something about washing away. And he likened it to sin, and he said that you need to wash away this sin, basically, right? And he would just spray people for hours on end. Then they get back in, let them come out and go to the bathroom, and then they could, get back in there. And this would go on sometimes for days. Completely insane. Should have been disbarred. Was he? No, he was hailed as a hero. And in fact, journalists, when they, you know what they wrote about him? They wrote he was great. He was doing all this wonderful stuff. He's amazing. Sound familiar? Stop assuming that people are smart. Duh, but they have the fancy degree paper, and that should mean that they're smart. No, it does not. I went to college with many stupid people, many dumb, stupid, arrogant, thick-headed, stubborn people. And they all think that because they have a degree that they're right, no matter what. It doesn't mean you can sit there and give them all kinds of papers, and well, that's been scientifically disproven, and that's an old theory, and well, we don't really go by. They don't care. They said, nope, that's what I think, and I have a paper too, and I scored high on the test, and you can't tell me one way or the other. Yeah, that's what your education system is, America. You're arming people with arrogance when you do that. When you just allow people to say whatever they want all the time, and if it's just a theory, and well, it's science. Well, we don't know if up is up, and the cup may be a cup today, and it may be a salad tomorrow, and you'll hear all kinds of nonsense that people say. You have no basis for reality. Guess what? You get all kinds of bullshit all over the place, and all kinds of cuckoo nonsense up there. So what else does this guy do? You know what he did? He said, it'd be a good idea. Let's apply electricity to people's eyeballs to see if it will make them see. So he just zap people he applied electrical current to people's eyeballs. He basically pulled a phone apart and made a little zzz, like you see in like a Tarantino film or some shit. Like, come here, you motherfucker! I'm gonna make you see again. Zzz. Can you imagine? You imagine getting your eyeballs shocked? What kind of a dumbass would sit there? America. Yeah, that's right. The smartest nation in the world, right? This man was hailed as a hero, and he was torturing people, folks, and the people were sitting there. The people being tortured, they would say, wow, this is fun. And you wonder how you get Alex Jones? Alex Jones is an upgrade from that type of shit. Alex Jones isn't going around shocking anyone, at least not that we know of. Who knows what's going on there? But hey, at least he's not doing it on TV and getting paid to do it, right? This Kellogg guy was getting paid to torture people, and people were clapping. They loved him. Said, "Oh my God, this guy is amazing. Look at that. He's spraying water on me. He's shocking me. This is good stuff to the future, folks. It's America." So what else did he do? He was a big fan of enemas. And hey, look. I'm not making it up. He thought enemas were the answer for many diseases that enemas could not possibly be the answer for, like diabetes. Well, you've had too many juice enemas. We got to shove some water up there. We'll flush out the sugar, and you'll be good. You'll be good to go. Just bend over. Yikes. So yeah, he was a big fan of enemas, and there's I don't know. I assume there's some health benefit to enema, but he was pumping in a lot. He was I don't know the exact ounceage, but it was way above the recommended amount. So he literally was just pumping you full of, like, I don't know, like just ounces and ounces of water, and you just like. And again, he would talk about sin a lot when he would be treating people with medicine, talking about, well, we got to get rid of the filth and the sin, and so let's shove something up your ass and wash it out, because that's. And yeah, there's some maybe benefit to enema. I think it's mostly hygienic, to be completely honest. And then there are, like, what is this, like a probiotic enema where you can give people who don't have the proper gut flora, that. But that's not what he was doing. He didn't know it. They didn't know about gut flora back then. But I'll tell you, speaking of gut flora, this man was a huge fan of yogurt enemas, which have no benefit whatsoever scientifically, unless you like yogurt, I guess. Like, so he would, shove the tube in there and just pump in the froyo, and there you go. It's you're healed. I mean, yogurt can heal anything as long as it's up your ass. So there it is again. This is the stupidity of American folklore, and people who are professionals, considered professionals. If you look into their actual history, oftentimes you'll find that they are madmen. And it is mostly men, by the way. All right. So what else did he do? Well, he had a vibrating chair. He basically had the first, kind of like, those old infomercials you used to see, that there'd be like this old decrepit kind of man sitting in the couch, and he would be very upset and grumpy, and then all of a sudden the couch would start vibrating, the armchair, and big smile. Well, I guess I won't kill myself after all. I don't know what I'm talking about. It's late. Anyway, commercials from the 90s were just awful. Oh, well, I'm upset now, but now my foot massager has come on, and automatically I've had an orgasm. Yeah, I think it's a little bit of a build-up, but yeah, so he said, yeah, sit on the rocking chair, it'll vibrate out, the disease. And it was a chair, and it just shook around. That's that's not anywhere near close to treating a disease. But he charged people money for this shit, folks. So I have to say it. It's too stupid not to repeat. But the most barbaric, and believe me, pumping someone's ass full of water, that's not fun. Especially if it's not the recommended amount, it's more than you're supposed to be putting in. That's not fun after a while, so don't pull that little cute thing with me and say, well, that sounds like it might be. No, that would hurt after a while. You wouldn't like it. But the most disgusting thing that he had recommended was, well, he wanted to cure masturbation. He wanted to do it in boys and girls. He's very interested in getting boys and girls and men and women too to stop masturbating. And he said in order to get a boy to stop masturbating, circumcise him. That's right. He said that's the medicine we really need. That's Mr. Kellogg, the good Dr. Kellogg, where you eat your cornflakes in the morning. Tastes like foreskin. Yeah, lop it off. Because that way they'll remember not to touch themselves. Then they'll know, because they'll be in pain. The good doctor, folks. The good American doctor. Don't say you don't know where you got Alex Jones from now. You can't say that anymore. Not after listening to that. It's like I told you, Alex Jones is an upgrade. Alex Jones isn't circumcising anyone in his basement. Filming it, putting it out there, making money. He's not doing that. Ben Shapiro's certainly not doing that. Ben Shapiro, he would never advocate for something like that, nor would Glenn Beck or any of. Let's be honest. None of them would advocate for something like that. They would all look at that and say, no, that's too far. That's too much. Even people like, Pat Robertson would say, what the fuck are you talking about? I'm not cutting anyone's foreskin off. That's ridiculous. So the further you go back, the crazier it gets. And some of those people, they want to go back to that. They want to go back to the good old days. That's what they're talking about. The good old days where you could just castrate and cut people's foreskin off when they touch themselves. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Oh, the good old days. Woo, the good old days. Anyone who talks about the good old days is insane. There were no good old days. They were horrible days is what they were, especially in America. So for girls, as you know, the punishment is always worse because girls are the devil to Christianity and the old, especially the old Christian doctrine. It's changed recently, by the way, and not much. But in the old days, the punishments were more severe for girls. This is one of the reasons you get the feminist movement that you're always complaining about, is because this was barbaric, what they were doing to young girls in those days. You know what his prescription was for young girls who masturbated? Complete female castration. That's right. Clitoral castration. Cut the clitoris off. Cut it off, or use acid to burn it off. And no, I am not making that up. That is a fact. It's on the history website. You can check it out. Obviously, the History Channel is not the best place for sources, but I cross-checked this. This is a legit story by a scholar. You can't get around it. This man advocated burning off female genitalia and was hailed as a hero in the United States of America, this country. When you have that as your culture, you have that as your history, you're damn right you're going to get far-right people. They're going to be way to the right, and they're going to do all kinds of crazy stuff. And you know what? Even if they hadn't had YouTube, even if they hadn't had Facebook, they still would have done crazy stuff. It just wouldn't be as popular. That's the only difference, is that you're right in the sense that it wouldn't be as popular. But can we fault these media companies for that? I think that's bullshit. I think that all that's going to do is cause people on the left to be censored, just like what always happens, because that's what censors go after. They always go after leftists. I saw a friend today on Twitter who was censored for no reason whatsoever. It's the dumbest thing I'd ever seen. So just remember that when you you're eating guys who advocated mutilating the genitalia of children, you eat their cereal, and then you wonder how you got Donald Trump and Alex Jones and all these conspiracy theorists. I think you need to start asking some more questions. All right, everyone. Thank you for joining me here tonight on More Content Talk. Check us out on Twitter at more_content PLS. You can also find us on Pinterest, TikTok, YouTube, all those good social media sites. Hey, guess what? I like that you listened to my show today. If you'd like to sponsor me, you can on Anchor. You could also listen to us on morecontentplease.org. We now have our show up on the website and other stuff as well, our blog as well. All right. Thank you very much, everyone, and have a wonderful evening. See you next time. Or day. I don't know when you're going to listen to this. Bye.